Now today we are going to introduce some analyzing concepts as well as some formatting concepts here. For those who were unable to work on the hyperlink part, it's very simple. So you just write something on a Excel sheet, and then you have to just right click there, and you have to go to, let's say, this one. I have not hyperlinked till now, so maybe you have to go to hyperlink and look at these options here. So usually it will point to a web page. However, in our case, we want it to point to something that is there in our document. So the same concept applies to other software programs of Microsoft Office also. If you have PowerPoint, if you are using PowerPoint, then there also you can use hyperlink. The same concept, place in this particular document, something like this. And then you choose whichever sheet or whichever place. It is also possible that I can point to a particular name. Suppose yesterday we had created this QTR1. See the beauty of hyperlink. Now this particular hyperlink will take me directly to that particular cell, the range where we have mentioned QTR1. See. So it highlighted this particular QTR1. See again. Directly came to that particular range. So naming a range has got its own usage, and it's very useful also. Okay. So now when we have multiple sheets, we can use some security for those sheets, and Excel allows a good feature of protection for our workbooks or for our worksheets. Now let's take an example that I have a workbook. This is a workbook, and I don't want users to either delete or add any of the sheets. So I have right now 4 sheets, and I don't want my users to add or delete any of the sheets. So right now you can see if I right click here, I have got all the options. I can delete it also, I can rename, I can copy, everything I can do. So this particular protection thing you can try on with any of the Excel sheets. So right now you can see that if I do right click, I have all the options here. Now I don't want my users, or let's say the people whom I have sent this particular Excel book, I don't want them to modify or delete anything. So in that case, what we do, we go to review, and then we have option called protect workbook. So the moment you click on this protect workbook, it asks for a password. So I can give any password here. It will, since it is a password, it will definitely ask me for a confirmation. Re-enter the password, and then it says OK. Now nothing else will happen. You can type, you can delete anything within the sheet, everything is fine. You can modify, you can delete, all these things are fine. However, now you won't be able to delete or copy these sheets. So I have restricted that whatever data or whatever sheets I have given it to you, you cannot add anything, you cannot delete anything from there. So in terms of sheets. So if you want sheet protection, then the level of protection should be like you don't want users to add or delete or modify the sheets, sheet names and all. So in that case, you use protect workbook. So workbook protection is required in those cases. So did you follow this particular step? And is it clear? Protection of workbook. Because this comes very handy, and if you are making a project or a template kind of thing, and you don't want people to fiddle with those things, then you definitely would like to have this protection of workbook in place. Now, you saw the usefulness of this particular workbook protection. If I want to unprotect, I just click there and I put my password and it is ready for editing again. I can again see that I have all the options ready here. Now this is workbook level protection. So let's take an example that you have this particular data, any kind of data. You take any kind of data, whether you can refer to this workbook also or any, for that matter, any kind of workbook. And what you want that, suppose you are sending this particular file to your team and you don't want them to fiddle around with these columns A, B, C, D, E. However, they can edit these part, means the data part they can edit, but they are not open to change anything here. So in the same sheet, you want people to use one part and not the other part. So right now you can see that I can delete anything, I can modify anything. So everything is possible over here. I can remove the data and all those things are possible, and the same goes here also. However, I don't want this to happen. Now understand a very basic thing for protection, that you have, there is an option for locking the cells. Fine. So before you go for protecting a sheet, you have to first check whether these cells are locked or not. So how do you check that? You check any of these cells. Let's say I'm clicking here, and when you right click on this particular cell, you get something called format cells. So format cells is something that can be used for alignment or increasing or decreasing the row height, width, column, and direction of text. Everything can be done using format cells. You can color them also. Everything is possible over there. So you can see that you can change the number format also, alignment also. Now, apart from all these common tabs that we have in Excel, there is another tab that is there, that is for protection. So just pay attention and listen to this very carefully. See, the actual fundamental thing of Excel says that by default, all the cells are locked. By default, all the cells of Excel or any given sheet or any given worksheet or range, by default they are all locked. So now you will ask me the question, then if they are locked, then how come we are able to modify or rectify all my data and add, delete, whatever we do? So what I mean to say that this particular protection is locked here. However, this is just one part of it, the first part of it. You have declared the cell as locked, but still you have not enforced the protection out here. So locking and enforcing are two different things, two steps actually. First step would be to lock the cell, and the second step would be to put a password so that people cannot use that particular cell. Now, at the moment, because if you see that you go to any range of cells, go to format cells and you go to protection, you will find this locked as ticked. Now, what is the beauty of this lock? Let's see. If you want to protect this sheet, now what will happen? If you see here, it says select locked cells, select unlocked cells. Other format cells and everything are there, but these are the main two, select locked cells and select unlocked cells. Now if I give a password here, what it will do, it will protect the worksheet and contents of the locked cells. So if I say OK, I have to again give the password and say OK. Now if I want to delete, it won't. I cannot delete. I cannot touch any of these cells in this worksheet. It says the cell or the range is protected. So if your intention is to protect the entire worksheet, then you can directly go for protect sheet and then give the password. However, see right now you can move to any of the other worksheets and you can modify there. That is not a problem. So this is possible because the protection was only sheet level protection. So right now anything, you cannot touch these cells now. Now my objective was a bit different. I said that I will only lock this part and I will free these parts. So now you see that protection is applying to each and everything. First of all, I'll unprotect this. So now the fundamental thing that you have to do, that before you proceed for this protect sheet option, you have to unlock the cells you don't want to protect, or in other way you want user to use. So let's see something. I want only my users to protect, to work on Q1 and Q2 data, let's say, not even the entire range. I want only people to touch these cells, like from F2 to G17, let's say. What I will do, simply I will just select this particular range and then I'll right click and then I'll go to format cells, and remember this protection tab, I will just say unlock it. So lock, uncheck means unlock, and then you say OK. And then you can click outside anywhere and then you go for protect sheet and then you put the password here. Say OK. Say OK. Now there is no change in this sheet right now, but you will see the difference. Since we have not unlocked these cells remain as a protected cell only. See here, I cannot do anything. I wanted to delete this data, I could not. Now let's come here, because these are all unlocked now. If I want, I can delete, I can modify, I can put some other data, something like this. It is possible here. So from F2 till G17, now I can modify my cells. Rest all, even if I go to this particular cell and try to delete or modify, it won't allow me to do that. So until and unless I say unprotect my sheet. So whenever you are trying to protect or unprotect a sheet, the actual fundamental thing lies in the locking and unlocking of cells rather than protecting and unprotecting. Protecting and unprotecting, protection will apply to the entire sheet. However, it won't apply to the cells which are unlocked. So those cells you want users to use, you can unlock them. So that is the actual concept, the fundamental thing behind your protection. So likewise, you can protect other sheets also, other columns also. So let's take an example that you have created a form kind of thing and you want only people to touch certain places where only they can enter data. So what you do, you unlock those parts only and then protect the sheet. So since those cells are unlocked, they can be modified. So this is the concept behind protection of sheet. Now, the most interesting part of today's module that I like it most. We were just talking about how to convert a table into, a range into table. So that was very simple. We have to just click on any of these cells and then we had to go to home and format as table and select a design, and it could convert my data into table. Now the opposite thing is also possible. You can convert your table back to normal. So you can take them as a range also. See, right now you can see that this particular range is acting as a table. So you can see the filters are on, Fine, and you can see the data is in the form of a table kind of thing. You can treat this or take it again back as a range by clicking anywhere on this table and then go to table, right click there and table, and then you have something called convert to range. So it will convert it back to range. So it is asking, do you want to convert the table to a normal range? I say yes. So now the formatting remains as it is. However, it has changed to a normal range. If I say no fill, the colors are there. Yeah, see, it has applied. Okay. So as we can convert range of cells into table, we can convert it back into a range also. My objective here is to show you a different kind of formatting, not only for the cells or the table, but for like, let's take an example that I want to highlight the cells which has a quantity of more than 50. It's a very simple thing to do, but how do I do that? There is an option called conditional formatting. This conditional formatting is a very beautiful feature that is added to Excel. So previously we could only color cells, but now in conditional formatting they have introduced other things also as well as coloring. You can create bars, you can create data bars, and all those things you can create. So right now what I am going to do is I want some of the cells to be highlighted. Given a criteria, I want cells only who are with the cells having data more than 50. The number should be more than 50. They should be highlighted. So how do I do that? So I keep my cursor on the first cell, and then I say conditional formatting, and then we'll talk about these data bars, but just to make you understand the basic concept of formatting, we'll go to new rule, and then we need to select the second option. The second option says that format the cells, only the cells that I have selected there. So right now my cursor is in F2, so it will only be applicable to F2. Now I wanted that if the cell value is greater than 50, so as you say, so you write. It's very simple, and then don't say OK. Before that you have to format the cells also. So I wanted this particular cell to be filled with this light yellow or golden color, and I say OK. The moment I say OK, since this particular number is more than 50, so it has been highlighted. Now how do I copy this particular formatting? Because I have done it for one cell and I want it to be copied for other cells as well. So what do? There is an option called format painter here. I click it, and then the moment you click there and come back to your cells, you will find a brush kind of symbol with a plus. So this means that the format painter is active. And then what you do, you have to just, let's say, highlight it like this. See, it's so simple. So the moment you highlight, what happens? The numbers which are more than 50 has been highlighted over here. Similar thing, you can do it here also. Now, I have a restriction over here. The restriction is that since I have given a condition of 50, Then each and every time what will happen, I have to go back to my conditional formatting and then change the number. Let's say tomorrow I want to highlight only numbers more than 70. So in that case, I have to again go to conditional formatting, change the my value range, and then work accordingly. So this is the way. This is the basic way to do it. But I'll show you one trick how to do something very interactively. Suppose let's take an example. This is your data, and you are presenting it to your management or your boss or your manager, and he wants to look into this particular data based on some criteria, as I said. So 50, 60. So since it's a big, like huge chunk of data, he's unable to see one by one cell that which is matching the criteria which he wants. And this criteria may change. So today he's thinking of 50 as the number, tomorrow he might think of 70 as the number, or 80, 90 like that. So I want to give my manager a flexibility. I want to add interactivity to this. What if I'll put a cell over here, I say put your quantity over here, and whatever quantity you put, let's say instead of 50 you put 60, automatically my cells of this particular column should be colored based on your criteria over here. So see the way I am doing. It's very simple, and believe me, it's a very good trick that you can also apply. Let me first of all clear off this particular conditional formatting. So there are different ways of clearing conditional formatting. You can right click. You can click on this particular cell and go to conditional formatting and say clear rules. So the moment you go to clear rules, it is giving me an option. Do you want to clear rules for this particular cell only, or you want to clear rules for the entire sheet, or you want to clear rules for the table? Now since I want, because I know that I have only put conditional formatting to this column, so even if I choose entire sheet, that doesn't matter. Only this column formatting will be cleared. So I can also select cells. In that case, each and one cell has to be taken care of. Or what you can do, you can just take your cursor anywhere and go to conditional formatting and then say clear rules, and based on the options you can select. If you want selected cells only, you can go there. Otherwise, entire sheet or entire table. Now see the beauty. The trick comes here. Last time what we did, we went to conditional formatting and we went to new rule, and then we went to this second option, and here we said greater than. Now greater than, here, since it is Excel and we are talking about data, so nowhere it is like that you have to put a fixed number over here only. You can always refer to a particular cell. Now here comes the utility of referencing. I want Excel to always refer to this particular cell, which is K2, for this conditional formatting. So please suggest what type of referencing I should use, relative, mixed, or absolute. I want Excel to only point out to this particular, or look at this particular cell only for my conditional formatting. So what kind of referencing it should be? So understand one thing, since we only want Excel to look at this particular cell, so only one cell has to be pointed for each and everything. So neither relative will work here nor mixed will work here, because what will happen if I want to shift my cells from this column to this column, then my condition will also change from this column to this column. So it will shift if it is relative. Now what I want Excel to only point at this particular cell. The moment I click here, see what happens. The moment I click there, see what happens. K1, how it is written, $K, $1. So by default, Excel says that it is better that you put it as an absolute cell reference, and we agree to that. So this is actually absolute cell reference. Thank you. And then we need to complete our coloring part is absolutely the same. And then we say OK. Nothing has happened. Why? Reason is that this number 54 is less than 60. We wanted to give a condition more than 60, so that's why it is happening like this. Now, what I will do, as I did for the rest, the other part, I will copy this format to all the cells. Now see, the numbers which were more than 60 has been highlighted now. They have been highlighted. So you can see 79, 62, these all numbers are highlighted. Now you might ask, see, what is the big deal? Last time also the same thing happened. This time also same thing is happening. No, this time it is interactive. You understand that this time, every time I don't have to go to conditional formatting and change the number over here. I have instructed Excel that for the number, you please refer to K1. Now see the beauty. The moment I say 80, the cells changes. The moment I say 40, the cells changes. The moment I say 50, so now this particular formatting is interactive. You have given the liberty to your management, to your boss, to just write a value over here, and this will be changing over here. Now, don't think that this particular interactivity is only for numbers. You can do it for this characters also, means strings also, right? Let's say you want to highlight all the veg or non-veg or spices or fruits, something like that. So you can give this interactivity also to your manager. How to do that? Let's take an example. I'm writing here veg. I've just created like the beginning. And I want that if you type some group name, so that will be highlighted over here. Okay. So see, similar way, I go here and I go to conditional formatting. I go to new rule. Now I will go to contain. So this time your group contains string, means characters. So in that case, we can't say this greater than or equal to or all these things. What we will say? We will say here equal to. Equal to, and then you say, what you will do? You will point to this particular cell. Instead of K1, it is K2 now. And you say, oh, sorry, I actually clicked OK without giving the format or without giving the color. Now what to do? You have to go back and then format it. I have not given any color to it. I just clicked OK. So don't worry. We can again go to conditional formatting, and there you have something called manage rules. You can always go back and then manage the rules. So you click here and then you say edit rule. So we have come back to that particular place, and then you say format, and then you select any color, let's say any decent color, whatever you want. I'll choose a vibrant one so that you can also see it properly. And then you say OK. So since the category that we have given here is not bread, so that's why it is not highlighted. So what I will do, I will again format this, and I'll copy this. So you can see all the vegetable group, like vegetable items, are selected now. Similarly, what I can do, I can just change here as bread, and all my breads are selected. So this is the beauty of conditional formatting. Now, apart from this coloring, we can always do something better with conditional formatting. Let's take an example that we have these total sales in column G. Now, I want to know, see if I want to see the variation in my sales for all my stores, then in that case what you have to do, we have to create a graph. Now, we will talk about all those things, pivots and graphs and everything. But for the time being, what I just wanted to see that how is my sales looking in terms of visual representation. So right now I can see the numbers 1200 or 4000, 100, 1000, 3000, but it is not appealing to my eyes. So to make it appealing to my eyes, what I can do, I can go to conditional formatting, and there I have an option called data bars, and then I can click on any of the colors we want. So what has happened? This cell is colored, but you can see a gradient. Now what it says that my intention was to create a data bar. So data bar can only be created when you compare between all the cells in a particular range. So this is only for one cell, so this is not showing me the exact variation. So what I will do, I will clear this first. And then what I have to do, I have to select the entire range here. And then go to conditional formatting, then go to data bars. Now see here. This is, you can see here that data bars have been created. And since I selected the entire range, now what is happening? You can visually see that this particular 1006 is a very low number compared to the other numbers that we have. So I can visually create a graph or a representation of my numbers using conditional formatting. This is the second part of it. So I can create or I can fill colors according to a condition. I can highlight cells according to condition. I can also create some data bars. These are some of the useful things for conditional formatting. Now, the next interesting thing. I have a challenge over here. This particular number, 56 or whatever number we have entered over here, let's say I'm putting 70. Okay, fine. So just a quick recap. So let's take an example like clear rules for the selected cells. So nothing is selected. So conditional formatting, as we see that that is there. Let's say if you want to color some cells or something like this, but there are always scope with conditional formatting where you can create something called data bars. So data bars is nothing but your, let's say you have a range of data and you want to just check, see a visual representation of that particular data. So in that case, you use data bars. So let me show you. First of all, you need to highlight the entire range. That is the difference between normal conditional formatting and data bars. For data bars, since Excel has to compare between all the values, that's why you have to select the entire range. Means entire range of cells or the data that you have, or that you want to compare. And then you have to go to conditional formatting, data bars, and then you can select your color, any kind of color you want. Now what it shows that since we had selected the entire range, what has happened, it shows that the numbers that are there in this particular range, this 4000 is a very high number and 1200 and 1000 are very low numbers, like low at the lower side. So data bars is nothing but you have to just highlight the entire range, go to conditional formatting and go to data bars. You can put other things also, icon sets or color scales. These all things are possible. So you can try out all these things. Okay. So these are similar to data bars, just change of colors and modes are different. You can put some icons also. That these all things are the same thing. Concept is same. So you need to highlight the entire range and then select it. Okay. Now, another trick. I know that my quantity is only from 10 to 90. But the person whom I have sent this particular file doesn't know about this. So what he will do, he will enter 100, 1000 and then he'll come back to us saying, see, your cells are not getting highlighted. Something like this. Or he will put ABCD something like this and he will say nothing is happening over here. So actually he is a mischievous person. We have to restrict them. How do we restrict? So very useful trick that you can apply over here. There is an option for restricting the numbers or creating a list maybe for your users. So let's see how it works. So what you have to do, after clicking this particular cell, you go to data and then you find an option called data validation. You click there and you say data validation. Now see the beauty of this option. So there are three parts of this. It says settings, input messages and error alert. So right now this particular cell 50 or this particular cell K1 can take a number, but the number should be having a range. So what I can do, I can just take, I want the person to only put a whole number first of all. Now the moment you do that, see, it gives me option that do you want to restrict your user? I say yes, I definitely want to restrict my user. I want them to only put a number between 10 to 90. They're making my life hell. They're putting ABCD and all these things and putting a higher number and then coming back to me saying that my the cells are not getting highlighted. What is this? So in that case, I said, okay, boss, I'm restricting you. You cannot put a number more than 90 or less than 10. Let's try. The moment I say 100, it's giving me an option. It's giving me an alert saying this is not a valid number. You want to retry? Yes. Then you retry, put a number, so it works fine. So now what I have done, I have applied validation to this particular cell that you cannot put a value less than 10 or more than 90. Now sometimes what happens that when you are putting a number, it is giving me an error message, but that particular error message is not relevant. I am not able to understand that error message. It says only try, not an invalid, it's an invalid number, try a valid number. So in that case, what you can do, you can just go to data validation here and use the other things, other tabs. What you can say, input message, and the input message says that please enter a number between 10 and 90. You can write your name also here and say okay. So the moment you go here, it will prompt, please enter a number between 10 and 90. But I am again a mischievous person. I will again put a wrong number. So that time my alert will. So though I see that is prompting me to enter a number between 10 and 90, I still give a number as 100, let's say. And let's try. Number between, it says, what is this? Number between 10 to 90, please. So we can change the alert message also. We can change the error message also. We can change the input message also. These all things are possible. So see how interactive you can make your numbers, your dashboards, or your data if you are sending. So what we learned till now is that first of all, we will restrict our users and we will protect a part of the sheet so that they cannot touch. That is through protection. We can also restrict our users not to add or delete the sheets that we have provided. We can also put validation in terms of, let's say, numbers being entered. So what we are learning is all how to make our data perfect and make it useful for the calculation and the analysis that we are heading towards. So I'm restricting people that you should enter only these kind of values here, otherwise I will have problems with my calculation, which is very good. Now, since these were numbers, I could easily play around with that and I could easily put my message and everything. Now what to do with this group? Now I can't see that there might be a spelling mistake. Instead of bread, B-R-A-E-D, some spelling mistake. Of fruit, you are writing it in small letters. So again there is a problem. So how can I restrict? So that's a very cumbersome thing, that when you are typing you should be very careful about the space and how it is written, the capital letters and all these things. But as a manager, as a senior level person, he doesn't have time to go through this group also. So let me give him or her a better way of entering data over here. What I will do, I know that these are my options. So I have veg, non-veg, bread. I will take the other ones. Wait. What I will do, I will just paste it here. You can paste it anywhere you want. I have taken non-veg, veg, bread. I want spices and fruit as well. So nothing, I just putting the values over here. Now what I want, I don't want the user to type. I want the user to select. So for selection I need to create a list box. But within a cell, how do I create a list box? It's so difficult. No, it is not. I just have to go to the same data validation. And this time, instead of any value, you just say list. And then mention the source. So in my case, the source is this. See, by default, it is again taking absolute reference, $N, $2, $N, $6. This is absolute reference. So it means that wherever you go, this will be your list of options to be selected. And then you say, OK. Instead of putting a value, we can now use a list box. And then see here, you can put any of these values. The moment you say spices, spices are selected. The moment you say veg, veg selected. The moment you say non-veg, non-veg is selected. So I am restricting my user in so many ways. At the top, I am restricting my user to only put numbers between this. The next one, I am not allowing my user to type only. I'm only asking him to select. that particular option. So these are the security and validation that we can apply to a data set, a data range, or a table. So this particular formatting is very useful, as we see, and we can restrict, and these all things are possible. Now, the next thing that I'm going to introduce over here is the concept of pivot. Because based on the pivot itself, we will be learning about other objects and the other features of Excel. Pivot is a way of analyzing your data, putting your data in a very formatted way, wherein you can create, means you can interactively means you can interactively present your data. So let's move ahead. Before moving to the pivot, there is a small topic that I would like to cover. Since we had already covered the concept of range and the name, so I will just try to cover one topic here. This you can practice of your own. Now here, and just now we saw what is data validation and how we can put the list box and everything. But here the problem is a bit difficult. The difficulty is that, let's take an example. You are selecting, these are my produce. This is a, let's say, a daily grocery store point of sale terminal. And what they have this particular screen where they need to enter data. But the data should be flexible. Flexible in the sense that they are dealing with three types of produce: fruits, non-veg, and vegetables. So this is the list of fruits that they keep. These are the rates, let's say, non-veg items and vegetables. So these are the three things that they produce. Now they wanted to create a place where they will enter the produce and item, quantity, rate, and all these things. But they have a challenge over here. The challenge that they are facing is that based on the produce, they should be able to select the items. So this means that if I select fruit here, then here all the fruit names should come. Similarly for non-veg and vegetable. So directly, this thing is not possible in Excel. Either we have to write a program or a code. But Excel has given us a very useful function using which we can achieve the target, or we can achieve the result that we want. Let's see. So before doing anything, first of all, what you have to do, we have to name the range. So let's say this is my list of produce. What I will do, I will just right click and I'll define a name. So I will just say produce and say okay. So instead of these fruit, non-veg, vegetable, I'm collectively calling them as produce. That's it, absolutely fine. And then I can name them also as fruit, name this as vegetable, and name this as non-veg, let's say. Now you have to be clear on the you have to check this thing that the names that you have given to these range should be equivalent to these names. So I have given this as fruit, I have given this as vegetable, and this as non-veg. Now we can proceed. Now right now this particular place is empty. What we can do, we will create a list box here. So for creating a list box, we know that we have to go to data, and we have to go to data validation, and then we have to select list. Now, instead of source, selecting these three things, we can just say equal to produce. That's it. So this is the beauty of names. If you just say OK, see, automatically I can see the produce. And then I can copy this down. So everywhere you can see this thing is coming. Now I can select anything out here. Now what I wanted, that based on my vegetable or non-veg or fruits, I should be getting the items listed out here. So how do I do that? So this means what I want these all list boxes to be populated dynamically based on the produce. See, relative reference is only for just to move the cells or move the formula. Here, this is neither a cell nor a formula. So in that case, Excel gives us a very good function for dynamic data validation. So what is that? We have a function called indirect. So indirect is a function in Excel which can be used in this scenario. What we can say, that indirectly point to this particular cell and populate your list. So what it means, that whatever produce is selected, based on that you refer to the name range that I have created. So if non-veg is selected, so go to non-veg list. If vegetable is selected, go to vegetable list or name. So likewise we can do that. So we just go to data validation and then go to list. Yeah, of course, relative referencing would be used here, but with a function. We say indirect. And then we have to refer to a cell for which indirect is applicable. So this is this particular cell. So I know that this particular cell, the name of this cell is C8, but I don't want Excel to put it as an absolute reference. I will remove the dollars and I will close it and I will say OK. Nothing has changed. My list has come here, but the list is basis the produce that I have selected. So it is fish that is selected, let's say. Now if I copy it, you will see here it is giving me non-veg items, but here it is giving me a list of vegetables, and still here it is giving me a list of fruits. So this particular items are getting populated based on the produce selected. So this is how it happens. You can select the item based on the produce that you have created. So this is the use of indirect function. Now what I just want a very nominal thing. I want to populate the rate based on the item that is selected. So item is here and I want the rate to be populated here. Now, since fruits are here, vegetables are here, and non-veg are something somewhere else, so it is not possible to put a direct VLOOKUP. Try out with a VLOOKUP. It's a very simple thing. What I do, instead of putting these all things in different places, I put everything in one place. Okay, now I'm ready for the VLOOKUP part. Now, the VLOOKUP function in Excel says that you can search for a particular item, and based on that, you can enter some values, or actually you can find out some data. Rate here, I want to put that if it is egg, then obviously the rate of egg should come. And since these numbers were scattered, so that's why we put it in a linear format so that Excel can use VLOOKUP function. So the function name is VLOOKUP, and VLOOKUP has different options. The first one is the value. What do you want to search? I want to search this particular value. Now understand here that right now this D8 which I am pointing to is actually a relative reference. Now this will, the second part is the array or the table from where you want to search. So I wanted to search from this array or this particular table, and then which column index you want to take. So if this becomes my first column index, this becomes my second column index. So I am looking for these fruits and vegetables. However, I want to take back the number of the rate number that you have got. So that is the second column, first column, second column. So I will give here 2, and then range lookup you can just put it as 0. So that will just have an approximate match, sorry, exact match. 0 means false. You can just have an exact match. And then you say enter. The moment you say enter, see what has happened. Egg. Let me see where is egg. So egg is 50 rupees. So this 50 rupees has come here. But there is a problem. The problem is that if you copy this formula here or here or here, then it will have issues. Why? Because we have not set the referencing. So right now I have written the formula in E8 and I want to copy this to E9. The moment I do this, if I directly copy this particular formula here, then what will happen? Right now if you see that this has become I19 to J33, it will change. If you just put the formula here, it says I20 to J34. So as and when I am putting it down, my cell reference is also changing. But I don't want that. I want Excel to only look up to this particular range only every time when I am putting this particular rate. So I won't take this. Instead, what I will do, I will select this part, and then I have to freeze this particular data range. For that, I would require absolute referencing. So for absolute referencing, you can either type $, $, like this, or you can just select the entire thing and press F4 from your keyboard. The moment you press F4 from your keyboard, what happens is that the entire range becomes absolute range, and Excel will not look into any other part apart from that particular range. You press enter, the answer remains same. Now what happens when you copy this formula down, see your range stays there only. Now I have not put anything over here. Why? Because I want Excel to move around this particular column when I'm going down. So that's why I have kept it as relative referencing. However, it is always suggested that you freeze your column, not the row. So right now, I have used mixed referencing here and absolute referencing here. The idea behind making this as mixed reference is that you only want Excel to freeze the column, not the row. So mixed reference concept is clear. Just let me know, and whether you understood this VLOOKUP function that I have put. What is the significance of this $88? What is the significance of this particular freezing? And what is the significance of this number 2? These are the main 3 things that we need to take care of. So 2 is the number, the column number that we are looking for. D8 is the cell from where data has to be searched. And this I19 to J33 is the location or the table or the array from where we have to search that data. So these are the 3 things that you have to keep it in mind. So what I have done, I have just copied my formula down. Now since we don't have any data over here, it is showing me hash NA. Let's take an example that the same VLOOKUP you want to copy here. So you just copy this and you want to put the rate here also. If you don't freeze D8, then what will happen? This D will become E here. See the difference. Only when you see the difference you will understand it better. So right now it is D8, let's say. So my data is pointing to item and it is selecting data from here. Now I want to copy this formula C, Control C and Control V here. See what happens. Actually I wanted to put the rate also here. Now since I have not frozen my column, what has happened? This D has automatically changed to E. Fine. So this was looking for egg in the rate column. I didn't want to do that. That's why I froze D. Okay. Thank you. Now I have another issue over here, that this NA, these all things are coming up here, and I don't want this NA part. So actually this NA is an error. So in VLOOKUP, if the VLOOKUP is not getting any data, then it will display hash NA. I don't want this hash NA also. Now what will I do? Let's remove this and make some modifications here so that the hash NAs are not coming. Actually I wanted to handle errors. Okay. So to handle errors, the first thing that you do, you copy this formula. So the first thing that you do, actually, so my intention is that I don't want that NA. So for that I have to handle errors. How do I do that? I copied this formula and then I will use my if condition also. Then I say if. So what is the English way of saying it? Means in the language way to say that. You'd say that if you find any error while using this VLOOKUP function, then please don't use that. This is my English version. So if while using VLOOKUP function, if you find an error is there, then don't do that. Otherwise, you execute the function. This is what I wanted to tell to Excel. So you say if is error. You say if is error, and this is my formula, VLOOKUP, and then you say if is error, while doing this formula, you close this, say comma. If there is an error, then don't do anything, just say blank. Otherwise you execute the formula. Now understand this particular line before I press enter. You say Excel, you start off with an if condition. If condition has 3 sections: logical test, value if true, value if false. So the condition that I want to check is that I want to just check with Excel that if this particular formula or the function that I have written over here is giving an error, means is error, then don't do anything. Don't execute the formula. Otherwise, execute the formula. So what I am doing here, I am using if condition along with another function. So if condition embedded with a function. And when I press enter, nothing will happen. It will just give 50. However, when I copy this formula down, see what happens. See, my formula is there in all the cells. But since this was giving an error, it did not populate. So now what happens, see here, I select any item, automatically I get the rate. So whenever you will fill some data, then only, so see this particular produce sheet now is totally validated. You cannot put an item without selecting a produce. See, if you try here, you won't be able to click here. I'm not able to click here. I can only click when I select a produce. I select a produce, based on that my items will be displayed, and based on the selection I will get my value. So this was my original VLOOKUP. Simple VLOOKUP I have given to look up for a particular value and put me the rate. Since the rate was in second column, I used 2 as my number of column. But this time what I wanted, because I was having error messages or errors #NS, so I don't want this error message to come up. That's why what I did, I simply modified my VLOOKUP, and this is a part of error handling. I said if there is an error, is error. Now is error takes a value. Value may be a formula, may be a function, anything. It will take a value and check whether there is any error or not. And then if there is error, then it won't do anything. And if there is no error, then it will execute the formula. So this much we have just written, and we pressed enter. Now instead of, see here, instead of double quotes, if I just put blank, like something like this, and I click here, see what happens. So now you understand that this if condition is working very fine here. It says that if there is an error, then write blank there, otherwise execute the function. This is very simple. So this becomes a complete thing now. See what happens. The moment you select produce here, and the moment you select a produce, automatically this blank converts to a value, and that value is the answer based on the VLOOKUP that we have got. You can always put a quantity and you can always put a total. So this total is nothing but this multiplied by, so rate multiplied by quantity becomes my total. So if you have one quantity, if you have 5 quantities, so whatever you want, you can put that. So this error condition is not only for VLOOKUP, you can use it anywhere. Suppose here I'm getting the total, but the total is totally dependent on. So let's take an example. The same condition is out here, that I want to see only the total when I put the quantity. Okay, so if quantity is not there, total should not be there. So what I will do, again, I will just copy this formula. You can type it also, but if just in case. So if I say is error, if I have an error, then nothing to be done, or you have the same formula. See, when you copy this formula down, see these 3 places you don't have any data. If you put quantity here, you get the total. This is for is error. You can check for other things also, that if this value is not present, then don't do the total. So in that case, what you can do, you can just say if, see the next topic that I am going to discuss is a vast topic. So in that you will have to like practice a lot, and you have to do all the calculations and understand, and charts and everything should be included. The things that we learned today, we learned about security, we learned about how to protect a cell, how to protect a workbook, how like I can restrict my users not to use all the parts of the sheet, so I can lock the sheets. And you saw that by default Excel locks all the sheets, but since we don't enable the protection, we can work on those all sheets and data and cells very easily. The moment we say protection, what happens, that Excel will lock all the sheets, all the cells, and we won't be able to use them. This is one thing that we learned. And we also learned about conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is a very useful tool, and we saw how we can apply conditional formatting on a like interactive manner also. And after that, we saw how do we proceed with data validation, how easily we can put data validation to our data and cells, range of cells. We can restrict people from putting a value that we want from our range. We can give some input message also, alert message also. These all things we can do. And finally, we came into this particular template where we learned about VLOOKUP. How do we put VLOOKUP? How we can handle errors while putting any kind of formula. It's not only for VLOOKUP. It can be any kind of formula that we have. And we learned a very useful function in Excel, that is the indirect function, and how easily we can make this kind of data entry forms and restrict our users. Every time I'm using this word restrict, because when you are talking about Excel, if you get the wrong data, you will get wrong information and wrong results. So it is always advisable that you validate your data at each and every point. So that's why restriction comes into picture. And also to make it more visibly appealing, we handle errors that, like instead of hash NAs, it should look like blank, or there is no data, those kind of things. So we could apply. So good, we learned so many things today. So next class, what we will do, we will be talking about pivot. We will be seeing how we can quickly create pivot tables and pivot charts. And then again, my stress will be on interactivity. So creating a pivot chart and pivot table is one thing, but how to add interactivity to it, that is my lookout. So always whenever we are taking up any of the data sets or any of the practice things. Always remember, we will try to make it as interactive as it is, as possible, so that the users of that particular template or data set doesn't come back to us for each and every small changes. So we will give that benefit to the user.